when I reached out to Coach D asking him to come on the show, I asked, I was like, so we asked the guests, it's like, hey, is there any topic that you would like to discuss, make you feel more at home and everything? And his response was, what do you say? You said, I know the issue is kind of old at this point, but
Yeah.
I'd like to discuss the man versus the man versus bear debate and everything like that.
Yeah.
So I was trying to find an interesting way to cover this topic that we could, fit in here. And I thought of one, and it's the fact that I'm sure you guys have seen this lately, the fact that men and women are diverging politically. I don't know where I came up with that word, but it's diverging politically that could shape the 2024 election. So I'm going to go over this article, just a few things on here that Democrats are facing the threat of a gender gap that could imperil the traditional advantage among younger voters that the party has enjoyed for decades and that President Biden needs to defeat former President Donald Trump. And researchers say democracies across the Western world are experiencing a widening partisan and ideological gap between younger men and women. In a much discussed article this year, Financial Times columnist John Murdoch pointed to survey data in a variety of countries showing that young men were far more likely to identify as conservative than young women. In countries on every continent, an ideological gap has opened up between young men and women. That gap has widened in the US too, though the evidence shows that it is growing more because young women are ideologically moving to the left than because men are moving to the right. Merged annual results from NBC polls conducted by a bipartisan team of Democratic and Republican pollsters document this trend. This is interesting. In 2013, the share of young men between 18 and 29 who called themselves conservative very slightly exceeded the share of those who identified as liberal. And by 2023, the pollsters found that young men had shifted slightly left, with slightly more now identifying as liberal and conservatives. But over that same 10-year period, young women sped leftward, and there were 3 times as many of them that identified as liberal as conservative. So what's usually been put forward in media these days, I don't know if you guys noticed this, is that, oh, did we lose Coach?
I don't know. Maybe.
Coach, are you there? Oh, no.
Well, keep it rolling, TJ. We'll wait for Coach to come back in.
So what I've heard usually is that men are identifying more as conservative and women are identifying more as liberal. But the reality is young men are still identifying more as liberal, just women are identifying more as liberal. So we'll go to you, John, first, since we lost Coach there. But we're just talking about the fact that it's not that men are becoming more conservative, like that young men are still mostly liberal. It's just women are becoming a lot more liberal. So what was your interpretation of this when you ran across it, John?
Yeah, so I was actually surprised to read that in the survey, because I was also under the impression that women are moving left or young women are moving left and young men are moving right, whereas in reality, they're both moving left. Women are just moving left faster, which is I was surprised by that. But I think that it's very interesting the way the article was phrasing it, because it mentioned several times it was like men are mainly focusing on economic issues and women are focusing more on social issues. But every time it mentioned differences in that article, they were cultural, social issues like immigration and trans rights. It wasn't economic issues. We lost Coach D again. I was about to tee him up too. I was about to tee him up with the bear thing. But no, it wasn't economic issues. It was culture issues. Like the thing that is dividing young men and women right now, I do think is the culture war stuff. I think that it probably goes both ways too. Like I imagine if you were to just take the culture war out of it, you would probably see just slightly more, women leaning slightly left and compared to the young men. But I think that the culture war drags a lot of young men to the right, because a lot of the things that young men are interested in tend to be right-wing culture war-ish stuff, like your Joe Rogan experience. I think those things are pulling a lot of young men to the right. And it just is a social norm sort of thing to hate the libs. Even myself, going from college, I knew a lot of frat guys that were go Trump, go fuck Joe Biden, whatever. But they didn't give a shit. It was just a cultural thing, And I think that young women also have the same thing to the left. I think that a lot of young men join the Republican Party because it would be uncool in their social circles to do otherwise. And I think probably an equal amount of young women do the same for the Democrats and more left-wing issues. I don't think this is an innate thing. I really just think this is more of just a social phenomenon. But I could be wrong. I didn't do any studies on this.
I know. Yeah, I want to point out too that Ben he didn't say "What up, Coach D." He said, "Who is Coach D?" I didn't notice that until he pointed this out here. Yeah. So, but Coach D, he's on TikTok and YouTube. He has fantastic content there. I know we'll get him back here, but
yeah, I'm really hoping we get him back.
I know, right? Yeah, but he's really great, folks. But so you were talking about how young men are like they're more slowly left than the women are, and for what reasons that might be. And like men are pretty much always more conservative than there he is.
There we go.
Sorry, Coach. You were I have 4 screens up, and I had one of them as the graph, and so I didn't see you backstage. But did you hear what John said?
Yes, I heard all of that, and I would have to agree. And I was going to ask, do you guys think it has to do with, like, I'm going to forget this guy's name, but the dude who was on TikTok and he got caught in like Italy or something, the dude who like indoctrinated Andrew Tate. Yeah, I think it's, first of all, let's just be real here. Men will identify with conservatism because conservatism is very like male dominated. The women are under you, like subservient women, all that. And I think if you look at it, they've appealed to men in that way, because you have a lot of women who will say, well, I let the man lead me. The man leads the house. And if the man says, we're voting for Trump, I think you take religion and misogyny, and you'll get a lot of, especially your 18 to 25-year-olds, which is, I think what the story says, they're going to lean more that way because, I mean, let's be real here. We kind of tend to be a little bit more misogynistic and a little bit more, Neanderthalish and everything. And so, and I think what John was saying is right. It's the culture war thing. It has nothing to do with ideology. I think most people would say they think women should have bodily autonomy, but I don't think men think of that as like a big issue for them. I think they see it as, here's this, here are the liberals who have become, they allow women to do what they want to do. And, they can lead the home if they want to. And, and then you have these boys who maybe are being raised by these men who are like, nah, screw that boy, you're supposed to run things or whatever. So I think it's something that will change. Although I do blame Democrats and the way that the Democratic Party just doesn't seem to have, they're just the worst when it comes to like articulating what they think and like relating to like the populace, they want to argue some of the dumbest things sometimes when there are big topics that they've actually done a pretty good job with. They don't talk about as much. So, yeah.
Yeah. We talk all the time about how lefty messaging is just terrible. It's just, it's so awful. And in a way, we're at a big disadvantage because what we talk about all the time is how, especially once you get far left, if you like, you can kind of swim in the waters with liberalism, but once you get like deep into like, socialism and stuff, it's almost so necessarily academic that it's hard to explain in punchy, quick, very fast terminology. Like you
Trust
don't
us,
need.
This is what we do for hours and hours and hours a week. Is try to condense these concepts into short, punchy videos. It is harder than you think.
It's so difficult because look, if we were conservatives, it'd be so easy. It's like, yeah, there's 2 genders, because you say that stuff and it's like on the surface level, it makes perfect sense. Like, oh yeah, of course, there's men and women. You don't got to think about it. And so all conservative messaging is like that. But, I'm going to sit up here and tell you about they're going to tell you, well, a rising tide raises all boats and, trickle down economics. And I'm going to get up here and start talking about marginal tax rates and quantitative ease. I'm going to lose people in 10 seconds. And so we're at a huge disadvantage that way. And the same goes for, gender stuff, because like you and John both mentioned something about how men, the aggrievement. This is like what drives conservative ideology is aggrievement. That there's something that I am owed. I was born into the United States of America, the greatest country in the world. God has blessed me and given me this birthright. I'm supposed to get what I have coming. And I'm supposed to have a wife, 3 kids, a house, picket fence, and they're not getting any of that. Like none of it. And no one has prepped them into why this works. I saw a funny TikTok about this and about it's interesting that it's guys can't stop bitching about the fact that they can't get laid. What's really weird about it is like it's never been easier to be a single man than right now. Like, it has never been easier, and they're just blowing it. But they don't know how to talk to women. They don't know what women want. They don't know what women like. They don't believe women when they say what they say. And speaking of which, the bear conversation. Like, I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but women have said for a long time that if they were alone in the woods and they ran into something, whether it a bear or a man, women are picking the bear, and that perplexes women. And Coach D, what are your thoughts on that? Why do you think men can't wrap their minds around this?
My thing is like, the problem I find with most men on this topic is they want to analyze all the bad things that bear could do to you physically, right? That bear will rip her limbs off. Why would she ever choose a bear over a man? And my thing is like, I have 2 daughters and a wife. I don't give a damn about the bear. I give a damn about the fact that if you ask a woman, would she rather encounter a bear or a man in the woods, she actually has to think about it. Like, she has to go, let me think about that for a second. Because we know that like the amount of sexual assault and you know, all the things that are going on is at such a high level that a woman has to actually go, I'd like to think about that. We all know what a bear would do to us, right? I know what a bear could do to us. I just want to get to a point where we're saying, where the woman is just like, easily a man. Like, why the hell would I want to encounter a bear in the woods, you know? But they want to argue about like the things that are so like trivial, where it's your argument should be, wait, why would they even consider a bear? And what could we do better to make them just go, yeah, that's easy? Like I said in my TikTok, if you ask me right now, hey, Demetrius, you want $1 million or do you want to put your hand in the garbage disposal? I wouldn't go, TJ, let me think about that for a second. I say $1 million. Like, it would be easy. That answer should be easy because we all know, like, if you encounter the right man, like, the things they'll probably try to rescue you, help you, or whatever, right? If you encounter a bear, period, it's probably going to rip your limbs off. So the fact that a woman has to think about it, given the fact that there are, like, pretty much 100% of the time, if it's you and the bear and there's going to be any type of interaction, that bear is going to kill you. If it's you and the man, there's a chance it's your brother, your uncle, the people you trust. There are men that you trust. The fact that you still think about it, it's just crazy to me. It's absolutely crazy. And I get so mad at these dumbasses who are like, well, this bear would do all these things. No, you're missing the point. The point is, why would they even have to think about it? Like, what the hell are we doing that they have to think about the answer to that question? And that's, I don't know. That's where I am on it right now. But I've seen, man, like, I came across a video, a woman was addressing this, and she played a video of another creator who I really respect. I'm not even gonna say his name right now because I don't want to associate it with this. Because I was like, man, he missed the mark on this in a way, and she kind of called him on it. And a lot of the people in her comments were like, I really like this guy. He does a lot of good things, but that was off because he said something like, I'd like to see it. I'd like to see a woman encounter a bear and the barista that's at Starbucks, and I want to see them choose that bear over the barista. Like, nah, man, nah. Like that's, and it didn't come. I mean, everybody took it like, so this is funny to him, and it's just bad. And so that's what kind of piqued my interest on the whole thing, because I've seen a lot of creators have covered it and covered it very well. So I wasn't going to cover it at all. But I think about my 2 daughters, and I'm like, hey, like they should be able to answer that question easily.